You've done it before. You found something good and you hid it. Maybe it was the last slice of cake, shoved to the back of the fridge behind the leftovers. Maybe it was money tucked into a sock drawer or a jacket pocket you never wear. Maybe it was a secret stash of snacks in your desk drawer at work, hidden from everyone else. It felt smart. It felt satisfying. And here's the thing you probably never stopped to ask. Why? Why does hiding something feel so natural, so instinctive, so deeply, right? Most people would say that's just common sense. You hide things because you don't want others to take them. But that answer is way too simple. Because what if that urge, that little thrill of stashing something away for later, isn't a habit you picked up? What if it's something older, something written into you at a level far deeper than memory or choice? What if the reason animals hide their food is the same reason you do it too? And what if understanding it reveals something uncomfortable about how your brain actually works? Stay with me until the end, because the last part of this story is going to change the way you think about your own memory, and about what you trust yourself to remember. Let's start with a squirrel. It's autumn. The air is cold and sharp. A squirrel is on the ground, nose twitching, cheeks stuffed with acorns. It digs a small hole, drops one in, covers it, runs 15 feet, digs another hole, drops one in, covers it. It does this hundreds of times, sometimes thousands of times, in a single season. Each acorn is a tiny insurance policy buried in the earth. And here's the first thing that should stop you: cold. Scientists have estimated that a single gray squirrel can cache somewhere between 3,000 and 10,000 food items in one season, 3,000 to 10,000 individual hiding spots, each one chosen deliberately, each one remembered, each one a bet against the future. This isn't quirky animal behavior. This is a survival system so sophisticated it still isn't fully understood. The behavior is called food caching, and it exists in hundreds of species across the animal kingdom. Birds do it, wolves do it, foxes do it, leopards drag kills up into trees, hamsters stuff their cheeks and fill underground chambers with grain, shrews paralyze prey and store them alive for later. Even some fish cache food, every single one of them doing the same thing you did with that last slice of cake. But why? What's the real reason behind it? The obvious answer is scarcity. You hide food because food runs out. And that's true, but it's not the whole truth. Not even close, because here's where it gets fascinating. Some animals cache food even when food is plentiful, even when there's no shortage, even when they have more than they could ever need right now. A Clark's nutcracker, a small bird found in the mountains of western North America, will cache up to 90,000 seeds in a single season. 90,000, spread across dozens of square miles of terrain. Researchers studied this bird for years, and what they found rewired how scientists thought about animal intelligence. Because it's not just about hunger, it's about something much stranger. It's about the future. Most animals live almost entirely in the present. They respond to what's in front of them right now. Hunger triggers eating, danger triggers running. That's the loop. But caching breaks that loop. To cache food, you have to think about a moment that doesn't exist yet. A cold morning in February, a storm that hasn't come, a hunger you don't feel right now. You have to act today for a version of yourself that lives in the future. And that is not a simple thing. For a long time, scientists believed this kind of future-oriented thinking was uniquely human. That the ability to mentally project yourself into the future, to plan for a tomorrow you can't see or feel, was one of the things that made us different. Then the birds proved that wrong. Nicola Clayton, a researcher at Cambridge, spent years studying western scrub jays. And what she found was startling. These birds don't just cache food randomly. They cache specific foods in specific places based on what they predict they'll want later. If a jay knows it's going to be in a location where one type of food is available tomorrow, it will cache a different type of food there today. It's planning a meal, days in advance, across different locations. Clayton published her findings in 1998, and the scientific world had to reckon with a genuinely uncomfortable idea. That planning for the future, one of the things we thought made humans special, is something a small bluebird figured out long before we existed. But here's what's even stranger. It's not just about planning, it's about something even closer to home. It's about trust. Here's the thing about hiding your food. You can't watch it all the time. Once it's buried, it's vulnerable. Another animal can find it, steal it, eat it before you get back. So what do animals do about that? Some of them cheat. Ravens are one of the most studied food caching animals in the world. And ravens are sneaky in a way that will make you slightly uncomfortable. When a raven is burying food, it looks around first. It checks if it's being watched. If it sees another raven watching, it will go through the motions of burying food in one place. It will act like it's hiding something, but the real cache is somewhere else, hidden when the watcher looked away. It's a decoy, a fake-out, deliberate deception. Now think about what that requires. To deceive someone, you have to first understand that they have a perspective, that they see things you see, that their knowledge of the world can be manipulated. Psychologists call this theory of mind. The ability to understand that other beings have thoughts, beliefs, and knowledge that are different from your own. For a long time, theory of mind was considered uniquely human, something that emerged from language, from culture, from thousands of years of complex social life. Then, the ravens started faking their own burials. Researcher Thomas Bugnyar at the University of Vienna spent years documenting this behavior. His work showed that ravens don't just hide food. They actively model what other ravens know and use that model to deceive them. They're not just surviving, they're outmaneuvering. And now here's where this stops being about birds and starts being about you. Because you do this too. Every day. Without thinking about it. Every time you tell someone a half-truth. Every time you give a vague answer because you know what they'll do with the real one. Every time you act like you forgot something or act more certain than you are, or casually change the subject when a topic gets close to something you'd rather protect. You are doing exactly what the raven does. You are modeling someone else's mind. And you are managing what they know. We didn't invent social intelligence, we inherited it from animals who figured it out in the wild long before we had words. But here's what I really want you to think about. The squirrel buries thousands of acorns. The nutcracker hides 90,000 seeds. The raven makes decoy caches. And here's the question scientists had to answer eventually. Do they actually find them again? Because if you bury 10,000 acorns and can't find them, you haven't survived. You've just done a lot of pointless digging. So how good is their memory? The answer is going to make you feel something about your own brain. Clark's nutcrackers can relocate their cached seeds with remarkable accuracy, months later under feet of snow, across dozens of square miles of mountain terrain. Think about what that means. This bird is navigating a landscape it memorized in autumn, now buried under winter and finding specific spots it visited once briefly, in the middle of a high-speed caching frenzy. Scientists tested this. They moved landmarks. They altered the terrain. They tried to throw the birds off. The birds used spatial memory. They had built a precise, detailed mental map of the environment, and they used geometric relationships between landmarks to triangulate the exact location of each cache. Alan Kamil and Russell Balda spent years testing this at the University of Nebraska. They brought nutcrackers into laboratory environments and tracked their cache recovery performance under controlled conditions. What they found was that these birds could remember cache sites with an accuracy that outperformed most human short-term spatial memory tasks. Let that land. A bird with a brain the size of a walnut has a spatial memory system that, in this specific domain, exceeds yours. And that's not an insult. It's actually one of the most fascinating things science has ever discovered about how memory works. Because it turns out memory isn't a single thing. It's not a hard drive you either have or don't have. Memory is a collection of specialized systems, each one shaped by what it needed to do. The nutcracker's spatial memory is extraordinary because its survival depended on extraordinary spatial memory. The birds with better memory found more of their caches. They survived winter. They passed on their genes. Over thousands of generations, the hippocampus, the part of the brain most involved in spatial navigation and memory, actually grew larger in food-caching birds compared to non-caching birds. Researchers confirmed this by comparing the brain structures of different bird species. John Krebs and his colleagues at Oxford found that caching species had measurably larger hippocampal regions than closely related non-caching species. The brain physically changed to meet the demand. Now think about your own brain. What has your survival, your daily life, your modern world demanded of you? Reading, language, social navigation, faces, schedules, abstract rules, and your brain is very good at all of those things. Extremely good. But ask you to remember where you put your keys, or where you parked your car, or which aisle the mustard was on last week, and suddenly it feels like your brain is letting you down. It's not. It's just optimized for different problems than the ones your ancient ancestors faced. The squirrel's brain was shaped by the forest. Your brain was shaped by the social world. But here's the twist. Even the squirrel forgets some of its caches. Researchers estimate that gray squirrels fail to recover a meaningful percentage of their buried acorns. The exact number varies by study and season, but it's consistently high enough to matter. Some of those forgotten acorns sit in the ground, and then something extraordinary happens. They germinate. They grow into trees. Scientists now believe that squirrel caching behavior is one of the primary drivers of forest regeneration in temperate regions. The squirrel forgets, and a tree grows. The forgetting isn't a failure. It's a feature. Not for the squirrel, but for the ecosystem. Now think about what you forget. The things you started and abandoned, the ideas you had and never acted on, the moments you let go without knowing you were letting them go. Some of those forgotten things didn't disappear. They became something else. They influenced someone without you knowing. They shaped a version of yourself you don't fully recognize. Forgetting isn't always loss. Sometimes it's how the forest grows. But there's one more layer to this. And it's the part I warned you about at the beginning. It's the part about what the animals are actually afraid of. Go back to the raven, the one making decoy caches, the one faking its burial to fool observers. Here's what Bugnyar's research also showed. Ravens are most likely to use deceptive caching tactics when they themselves have been a thief before. If a raven has stolen food from other ravens, it assumes other ravens will steal from it. It projects its own behavior onto others. It assumes the world is full of creatures like itself. And here's where this becomes a quiet gut punch, if you let it. Humans do this constantly. We call it the false consensus effect, the psychological tendency to assume that other people think, feel, and behave the way we do, that our values, our habits, our intentions are more common than they actually are. People who lie frequently assume others are lying too. People who cheat assume the system is full of cheaters. People who are generous often assume the world is more generous than it is. The raven buries a decoy because it knows what it would do in the other raven's position. You make assumptions about strangers based on the same internal reference point. You are navigating the social world using yourself as the map, which means every time you assume you know what someone else is thinking, you might be looking at a mirror instead of a window. So here's where we land. Wild animals hide their food because winter is coming and they can't know when the next meal will appear. That part is obvious, but that's not what this was ever really about. This was about the fact that survival built something in the brain that is almost impossible to fully categorize. Planning for a future self. Modeling another mind. Building a spatial map so precise it rewires the hippocampus. Forgetting in ways that accidentally seed forests. Deceiving based on a projection of your own inner life. Every one of those behaviors exists somewhere in you too. Not because you learned it. Because you inherited it. Because the same pressure, scarcity, competition, the need to survive a tomorrow you cannot see, shaped every brain that has ever existed, including yours. You stash snacks in a drawer. You tell half-truths to protect something. You forget things that turn out to matter. You assume the worst in someone because it's what you might do. You are doing what the animals do. You always have been. The question isn't whether these ancient survival instincts are still running inside you. They are. The question is whether you know it.